I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do we have any opening statements? I think that's what we're going to go with. No opening statements. So we pretty much have to sit around for an hour. So any questions that anybody has, let's talk about. Or statements or whatever, it doesn't matter. Do you want us to go? Do you want us to go over anything?
I just want you to know, like, an email came out today and it said 6:30 to 7:30.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
I think the newspaper had 6:30 actually.
Really?
Because when I checked.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, when I checked it.
Well,
So
sorry.
that could
Okay.
be an
sorry.
issue.
Oh, we may. Did you hear that?
For an hour anyway.
Chairman Herring,
Yes.
can you hear me? Okay, so the meeting is posted for 6 to 7. That is what has been posted by you as the Board of Trustees, so that is what we go with.
Okay. Well, if people start filtering in at 6:30, we can answer questions then.
Yeah.
We'll just
but
go to
we
7.
off
That's
of
fine.
what we
Yeah.
posted.
Okay. Sounds good.
Just,
Any questions or statements since you just came in?
I just thought, do you want me to tell you or write it down or what?
Well, we just missed the open, but if you want 3 minutes a statement, or if you just want to ask questions, we have an hour to kill.
Is this about the consolidation?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
We've had 3 already, so that's why there isn't much of a turnout, because this
got it.
is just protocol, but.
And I read about it in the paper, what was going on. I guess, and my name is Lynette Brinker. I live in Grangeville, retired teacher. But I think that it's, my personal feeling is that it's premature for,
Could you come up next to that? So
should be filmed.
it won't be filmed, it'll just be recorded.
So we can hear your
It won't be
statements.
pointing at you. Okay.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Lynette Brinker. I live in Grangeville and I'm a retired teacher. I've subbed and worked at both the schools, the high school, actually at all the schools, and in the Mountain View district, except for Elk City. So my gut feeling, I just feel like it's early for a premature push for to deconsolidate. I know that people want that for financial reasons. I feel like Kuski finally has really good leadership at both schools, and that it would be, they could use the time, to get going and make the positive changes that will reflect in the community, and hopefully, the community will be more supportive. I remember coming here in the 80s and talked to the principal down there, because we were going to move at that point, and said, people here value education. And the local, many of them do value education. I think people who have probably moved in maybe are not as supportive of that. And I don't think the local community should be penalized because of that. I think that also there's no organization that I know of, no people gathering together to go to the state to demand that the state do their job. The state needs to fund schools. That's the role of what they need to do. From the voting that just happened, clearly nobody cares about the state funding their job, funding the schools, or they probably would have voted differently because it's the same. So I think it's really important that people, that a group formulates to push the state to do the job. That's where the money needs to come from.
Can you repeat your name for our
Oh,
Lynette Brinker.
thank you.
Lynette Brinker?
They know my name.
No, for Tracy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it. Do we want to make any statements or talk about that or discuss?
I I am a little concerned waiting for Elk City to go either way. That is mostly a deciding factor for me. I wish I knew which direction they were going, because that would take away from a lot of our property value, which, if you know, the Kuski has a little bit more poverty rate than Grangeville does because we have a little bit less of a population. So if schools are only going to be funded at 74%, it would be a lot harder to get a poverty rate to vote yes to support a school when they can't support some things. It would just be a little bit more of a, don't really want to buy a car if I don't know what the price is.
And that's the problem. This, as far as this, I'll just make statements, but this deconsolidation plan and stuff does not solve the finances, right? It's like, it's going to be 75%. We talked about this earlier, but 75% is coming from the state, whether we're together or whether we're apart.
Right.
So levies will still most likely be needed. And so the biggest issue, just like you said there, the state funding model is the tough thing that we're fighting against. This plan is just, do you want to govern it on a more local level, or do you want to govern it on a consolidated level, type of deal? But it does not solve the financial problems, and that's a tough thing.
It is, and I completely understand that part. I just mean, like, when you take John and I's zones, and then you take off part of that zone, and then it comes this direction, and then our zone has become a lot smaller.
Yep.
So that means that the 74% to the 25% basically that's not funded for the schools is going to be a lot more of a burden and a lot harder to be able to stand behind for a retirement community of what we have.
Yeah. So I'm going to reiterate what you're saying. Probably, if Kuski goes alone, it's probably not for their best benefit.
Correct.
That's what. Okay.
Correct.
And that's the thing. If we decide to vote as a board yes on this deconsolidation plan, all that doesn't mean that we're for deconsolidation and that deconsolidation is the best choice forward. It's just that this is the best plan that we can have if deconsolidation occurs. Would you guys agree with that? We're trying to come up with the best deconsolidation plan that we can think of, but we're not saying deconsolidation is the best route. It's just, if it were to occur, this would be our best bet.
Right. And then in that plan incurs, I believe that plan had Grangeville or Kuski and Oak City together, correct?
Right. We haven't changed anything yet, so that's where we stand at this point in time.
At this point, I don't think it can be changed.
If that's what we're offering the state.
We could change it, but I personally think what we have is the best.
I do too.
That's what I personally think, but that's what you guys think too.
Back to your question about the, again, should Elk City possibly thinking about going to Grangeville. I think that, of course, we saw a number of people talking there at Elk City, and they were saying how much, a lot of them were saying how much they wanted to stay with Grangeville. However, there's a lot more people in Elk City than what we just saw in that meeting. And when they take a look at the idea of, the tax rate of staying with Kuski versus going with Grangeville, I bet you that a lot of those people will think twice about that, and even people that were at that meeting and decide, you know what, I think I'm going to stick with Kuski, because it would be a dramatic difference in the tax rate.
Again, if deconsolidation were to happen, I think this is the best plan so far that we've come up with. But if someone else can come up with a better plan, I'm open to new other ideas, but this is the best that we've come up with.
But we're voting on this plan right here I just want to be extremely clear.
Well,
I
this is
just
the
want to
time-
be
this
extremely
is the
clear
time to do it.
because I know it's going to get printed in the paper. You make sure you put a filter on my face.
Lori, you make good notes here, okay?
What we are voting on is Elk City going with Kuski in this plan.
Correct.
Yes, that's what we would vote for. Unless you guys want to have any changes, but that's, as it stands now, that's what we have.
So,
Okay.
Would you like to
Can I
add to
jump
that?
in?
That
I
would
don't
be
know if you can
great.
hear me
Yeah, we can hear you, great.
Okay, so it's killing me, by the way, to be not there because you know I have to talk. So the plan that you currently have includes Elk City with Kuski. And there are pros and cons, and if you look at the pros and cons list, I'll lay out the pros and cons in my opinion, okay? So in my opinion, Elk City should go with Kuski. Here are the pros and cons. The state of Idaho, the truth is, the state of Idaho supports about 75 to 80% of public education. And they call all that other 20%, 25%, 20 to 25% control. I struggle with that personally, but they call that local control. Looking at the numbers, including Elk City with Kuski, looking at the numbers, looking at ADA, which is how you get your funding from the state. The majority of the funding comes from ADA. And because Elk City would be a school, Kuski would be, for the most part, about the same. We currently run about a $3 million levy, and 1/3 of the district is Kuski and Elk City, 2/3 Grangeville. So Kuski's going to be, they're going to be short about $1 million or 20% of their override. But then they have a decision to make. They when I came up with those numbers of about $1 million, and Carly really did the numbers, I just asked her to. We looked at that like 2 principals and a half-time superintendent. We included a nurse. We included all of the things that we currently have. Well, the board that oversees Clearwater Valley and Elk City together will have to make those decisions. Do we want a nurse, or do we just want to have nursing contract for a few hours? Do we want a half-time superintendent, or do we want to make a combination? So those are their decisions. Do I think that they could make those decisions and tighten up to run without a levy? Yes, they probably could. But is that the school they want? Maybe not. So then they want a levy. And this is where the big pro and con comes in. Their property values are much higher, including Elk City. And so they would have a lesser per 100,000 levy amount. So it'd be an easier levy to pass. It behooves Cooley to keep Elk City open because that is additional funding. If Elk City comes to Grangeville, it would cost them some funding. So would it benefit them to a levy failed and so we close Elk City? That's financially not a good decision. And so it does protect Elk City a little bit, if that's a worry. In the end, these are really, really difficult decisions. As someone making a recommendation, my recommendation is that Elk City goes with Clearwater Valley. That's the best decision to give the Clearwater Valley the best tax rate if they have to run a levy, and also separates the district well. Additionally, it does, as I brought up at the end of that last meeting, if Clearwater Valley is their own district, their high school isn't going to be on the chopping block for every levy because it's their high school. So it does secure their levy for them as well. Or excuse me, it doesn't secure their levy, it secures their high school for them. Not easy decisions. I'm not taking it lightly. Oh, there was one last thing too, the question about electives. That, there will be so few electives at Clearwater Valley that all the other schools. There's not very many electives at the smaller schools all around us, and they keep their kids. Cottonwood doesn't have a ton of electives, they keep their kids. Nez Perce doesn't have a ton of electives, they keep their kids. I don't think that kids are going to pull out just because some neighboring school has more electives. Again, most importantly, it goes to a vote of the people in May. Tonight, when the board votes, what they're doing is they're saying, let's move forward with this plan and give the patrons the opportunity to vote on this plan in May. And it's the patrons who make the decision.
Thank you. Open to questions? Ben?
I'm just gonna clarify, of that petition that's went around,
Ted Lindsay?
To take Elk City to Grangeville.
Yep.
How many of those were actually Elk City residents versus Grangeville residents?
We didn't do a thorough analysis of those signatures. And Ted said they had 100, but I only counted like 46, but it may have expanded since then. Have you looked at the latest numbers on the petition? Anybody? I have not. But yeah, I don't know. I was hoping we could have like a scientific survey of Elk City and like who wanted to go with way, and we weren't really able to get that together. It was just a form of a petition that anybody could sign, and it wasn't necessarily indicative of the whole community, but it was a significant portion. There's obviously people in Elk City that would like to be part of Grangeville. We definitely acknowledge that. That's legitimate.
Well, and then even, at K-8, after they get ready to go to high school, they get to choose whether they get to go to Grangeville or Kuski anyway, correct?
They do, yeah. So it's open in perpetuity. Elk City can decide where they want to send their school, or kids, what school they want to send their kids to.
And that might be a deciding factor for them as well, is what high school they're going to go to when they get done with 8th grade.
But honestly, it wouldn't change their education really much.
No.
Because they'd have 1 through 8, or is it 1 through 8? Is that 1 through 8?
K through 8.
K through 8 through,
Get great, yeah.
and then whether they go to Grangeville or CV, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be accepted either place. Elk City just really wants to keep their school open. That community really wants to keep their school open. So, that's what John's trying to do, is find any way to keep that school open.
Well, it's critical for the community to keep the school open in some fashion. And I think that, that can be done one way or another. We can keep that school open. It's the simplest way, in my mind, is going forward with, Clearwater Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is the best fit, with the type of people that live there. Again, Elk City is kind of a, it's an old mining town, and it's still got a lot of that old mining town, type of mentality to it. Just the
And
way
you
it
got
is.
a lot of mill workers and woodworkers.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of what my question was leading towards in terms of
Oh, Vinny's.
population.
Sorry, can we get up and talk in front of the mic so Alyssa can
Appreciate it.
hear? Sorry. Lucky you.
I can yell real loud.
Yeah.
I
Or
guess,
yell.
that was part of my line or my question on the petition is that, how many are true Elk City residents versus outlying landowners in other spots that want their dollars to go to Grangeville. And I certainly know Ted Lindsley owns property in there, so he's got a vested interest to not pay for Kuski to keep it in Grangeville. And so that's I just wondering, what percentage of is really just non-community members that just want their dollars to go to a certain area versus where their land exists and whatnot. So
Honestly,
that was kind of the
if
line
it's-
is what I was going with John,
Yeah.
in that
Gotcha.
what is the relationship there? Is it just because I have a vested interest because my property lays there and that's where my cabin's at? Or is it truly the intent of the body of people that reside in that locale?
Yeah, and honestly, if it's all just property value, if you're just looking at the taxes you're gonna pay, it's best to go with CV.
Exactly,
If
but
that's
but
that's your sole consideration, it would be.
for school consideration, and that's kind of my point is that others in my mind, aren't necessarily looking for school consideration in terms of Elk City school consideration per se. It's looking for where the tax dollars are going to go for the Grangeville consideration. And, you know, people, I would offer maybe Ted Lindsley, you know, that's where he wants his money. He lives in Grangeville, he wants to support the Grangeville school, you know, and
gotcha.
Elk City just happens to be, so he's gonna be double taxed one way or the other. He's gonna be double taxed and paying for the 246 versus 245. So why wouldn't I just keep all my money in 245 and bring these guys along with me?
Good point. Valerie.
Because you guys have said that obviously there's probably still going to be a need for a levy if there's not enough ways to save that money because we only get 74% funded through the state. Has it been asked to like community members within each of the different locations on what they would feel about whether they would support a levy if it were for their own community and not 3 different communities? Has that been something brought up that we have like numbers on, like that people have actually said,
No.
hey, I would support it or I wouldn't? And so the-
Not necessarily numbers, but I have talked to several community members that are usually anti-levy because they're a little older school, still feel that all their comes to Grangeville and Kuski doesn't get any of it, and they actually said they would support their hometown.
And again, it's hearsay, but I've heard the same thing. Talking to people, they would say, I will never vote for a levy if we're consolidated. But if you separate, I will vote for a levy for CB. I will support my local school.
You can look at other school districts too.
Yeah, and you go to Riggins. I mean, Riggins is an example, right? It's our closest example. They voted no on the levies. Then they separated, and they have passed a levy ever since.
I mean,
So
not like
the community changed.
hugely. What was their last one was like 67%?
That's pretty huge.
I think.
Way better than what we've been.
Oh,
I mean, hey.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But still, in fact, they support their own.
It feels better to support your own, right? It's like I know where my money's going.
so even
That's
though
the
it's not
subjective
like
stuff.
It's not a solution to the financial issue.
It is
might
not.
be in that way.
Of
there are people saying, hey, I will vote for it if it's
We
for
hope.
my own.
Well, that's what we hope. Decides. We're just trying to put the best division plan possible if we are to go that route. And I want to address the whole rush because there are several people who have said this just feels so rushed. That's when we passed a 2-year levy, we stated that we're going for a 2-year levy so we can give the community an opportunity to decide what they want to do. So we kind of have this timeline to do it now,
Yeah.
or
This
or
is
not.
a 3-year conversation. I think this is a 3-year.
Is it?
Because Michael was
with
here, then
Steve.
Michael left, and then Michael's back, and we're still talking
Good
about
reference
it. So.
there. There you go. There we go.
Yeah, it started with Steve
Yeah.
in March of 23, and I think like he was kind of the first superintendent to like verbalize it.
Yes.
Like it's been kind of just talked about for a long time.
I've been talking about for like 40 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Back in the archives, it has been.
There you
Yes.
go. There you go.
96.
Yeah.
I think my grandma talked about it. She graduated in Grangeville, so.
Okay.
And she's 80-something, so.
There we go. Yeah.
I'm just curious, once you pass, you vote tonight that, yes, this is the plan, and then when will you begin to implement that plan?
Oh, yeah, we'll go over that.
Could you reiterate it? Cause
Oh, if we vote tonight and decide to send this to the state, this is what it would look like. So, if we decide this is the plan we want and we want to submit it to the state, we'll vote on that tonight. Then the state looks it over. They look at the maps and the trustee zones and the numbers and stuff like that. If they decide to approve it, so We'll submit it next week, and then they will look at it in December. If they decide, yes, this is a good plan moving forward, we approve what you put together, then they will come back to us, and then it will be put on the ballot in May. So in May, the community decides and kind of go.
And then each community has to pass it if it's going to continue.
So the community as a
So
whole.
if Grangeville passes it and Kuski doesn't, it's off.
Yeah.
Each community of the.
Of the district, sorry. Yeah, yes.
Right, and what about, where does and then would Elk City be part of the Kuski votes?
This plan, yes.
Yes. So the new district would be Clearwater Valley and Grangeville is the two new districts.
Yeah.
And so the whole district as a whole needs to say yes, and then the smaller district, which would be CV by numbers, would have to say yes as well. So you
Yes.
cannot force it onto Kuski and Elk City. They have to want it, and everybody has to want it. I thought it was actually the two new districts themselves, but I guess the district as a whole and the smaller of the
Yes.
district.
Thank you.
Alyssa
You said that better
corrected
than I
me
did.
with her
Same
research.
thing, but better wordage.
Yeah.
And Tyler, it's a simple majority, right?
Simple majority, but in both, I mean, it has to pass with, the whole community really.
When is it going to, if it's passed?
26.
26.
And that's the deal. We're gonna split, or we're gonna postpone it for an additional year so we can prepare, where to go and whatnot.
Yes.
That'll give us a year to figure out.
Divorce.
Yeah.
That'll
Figure
give
out
us a year
what
to
needs to be
divorce.
in place and what does people. Oh look, it is 6:30.
There we go.
People talk. All right.
It's all right.
Yep.
Stick with the, still doesn't look like it's gonna be that many.
I have a question about the
So,
person who was
got 3 minutes until
property in
6:30.
Elk City and Grangeville. I don't think it really matters to people don't like it, they sell their property, I guess, but I lived in a community that actually was divided into two counties. And so the school districts were in two schools, two different counties in the same little town.
Oh really?
So finally, we became our own school district, so we can have both schools in our own town.
Oh,
So, but, people have their properties better, they have rental income or this or that, and this is what it is.
It's just what it was. Oh yeah. We'll let these people filter in.
I'm gonna just bring it up just again. So that everyone can
I'll just address it. Alright. Well, welcome to the new people. There was a miscommunication. We started it was actually from 6 to 7, but I guess it was printed in the paper 6:30 to 7:30. Ask any questions you want, make any comments you want. We can talk about it.
Well, I have one. Very short.
You wanna-
Oh, wait, is this being recorded as
Yeah.
part of the
Well,
testimony?
and Alyssa and B are on the computer, and so if you come up, they could just hear you better.
Because I have already testified, I just had a question. So I'll-
And Tracy.
Question?
I will just ask the question related to, I got on and was looking at trustee zones, and I think that under the new Clearwater Valley Elk City Combination District, there would be one zone in Lowell and one in Elk City. Is that right?
I haven't looked at it recently, but it's something like that.
Okay. I just couldn't quite, I wasn't good with the map, so.
Oh, okay.
I think you can pull the map and see the zones.
She said she
She's
wasn't
looking
good.
at it.
She was looking at it. She couldn't.
Could be operator error.
Yeah.
You got to play with it a bit
Yeah.
too, yeah. And it was easy because you're trying to get the same amount of people in each zone, And the Grangeville one was actually pretty simple. It was easy to split, but the CV is just so,
Yeah.
Very
you know,
large.
just spurs. Yeah, it was hard to make the zones equal, but Barbara Graham at the courthouse did as good a job as possible. She's helped a lot. She's been great.
I just have one other question, I feel like, at the moment, thinking about our staff within our district. What is that going to look like for them if this were to pass? If we're gonna be in a 20.
This is a good question, and I would like to refer you to Alyssa to this one, because we were talking about.
I'll be able to answer better if I can hear the question.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you. It's what will it look like? It's going to refer to support units, but what will it look like for the staff here and the staff in CV if it were to deconsolidate? As far as their jobs, and I would think
you're
that
talking about support units, right?
But, I mean, just.
In general, all of them.
Could you talk about support units, Alyssa? Or Carly,
So
or whatever.
I'm going to defer Carly to the support units, but for the most part, staff in Grangeville will stay in Grangeville. Staff in Elk City and Kooskie will stay in Elk City and Kooskie. What the structure for the entire district looks like, I can't imagine. I mean, again, it's going to be up to the trustees that are appointed by the Board of Education in June, but I can't imagine in the buildings there would be a lot of change. In the district there would be, in the shared people, for instance, federal programs, special education, extra hats that the attendant would wear, human resources clerk, accounts payables clerk, business manager, that might look different, as well as maintenance may look different, but based on supports that Carly can go over, teachers, you're still going to have about the same size of buildings, and the support units split really well based on those buildings.
I just have a follow-up question.
That doesn't mean that might not change, because we're always, every year, you have to look at your enrollment and how many kids you have and make the best decisions based on that enrollment.
So, because I'm a blunt person, it's just who I am, I guess. Should any staff within the district be worried about their jobs and having one once it splits? If it were to split?
Well, I'm in a position where I can make a promise, but what I can say is I believe that the trustees, as well as the administration, will do their very best to keep people whole. Will it be the same job? I can't guarantee that. No, their job will be exactly the same, but that is true year to year. For instance, the legislators are looking at a change in the funding formula completely. That's going to make a difference in our teaching staff and who we have from year to year. Again, I'm not seeing any reduction in force through this plan. And if you're talking about certified only, I don't see a reduction in force being employed at all. No guarantees.
Alyssa, would you be okay with me showing some of the tables I've been working on?
Absolutely, please.
So, just for curiosity's sake, I went through our 23-24's numbers last year with our staffing. And so hypothetically, if last year we were deconsolidated into the Clearwater Valley School District and then the Grangeville School District, we talked about Clearwater Valley and Elk City having 21.43 support units. And that would generate this top row, a little over 2 admins, so that's your principal and superintendent, a little over 23 teachers, a little over 1.5 pupil services, that's counselor, SLP, nurse, and a little over 8 non-certified or classified staff. And again, this is taking into consideration a few items like Alyssa mentioned. For admin, they would have had 2.5 because I took half of our superintendent, but as she mentioned, a principal could take on superintendent, half principal role, and that would just be one admin. But you're just like still right in that sweet spot. The teachers, they were at 24 last year, so they're just, again, barely over. And that's honestly, like, I've talked to a whole bunch of other business managers, and that's their sweet spot as well. Like, you don't want to ever be under, because then you're losing money. And so they're just barely over. The pupil service is where I think it gets a little interesting, because I did include a nurse, and that in a smaller school district probably wouldn't be necessary. And so that's the only point that I was like, question mark. Non-certified and classified, or our classified staff, that is no matter what where we have an issue. Like, we have a lot of paras. It's also our custodians, it's also our secretaries, it's myself, it's Michael. Like, those are over in every school district, and we go back to state funding. So if you look at it, like, with the exception of non-certified, like, they're really in line. So that was Clearwater and Elk City. And then Grangeville numbers for 23-24 would have generated this 43.59 support units. Again, a little over 3 admin, a little over 44.5 teachers, almost 3.5 pupil services, and just over 16 non-certified. The admin, I did take a full superintendent because the size of Grangeville, I didn't know how that would shake out. So, and it supports it. We'd still actually be funded more admin than Grangeville would have. Teachers, they are over 2.5, but that could be the situation that, like Alyssa was referring to with the federal programs director and the special education coordinator, like maybe they'd have to wear hats in that sense. Pupil service, again, hypothetically, maybe half a nurse. I'm totally just throwing things out, but that's where you get a little over, and then once again, just a lot of classified staff. So like for staffing purposes, just to reiterate, Alyssa, it probably would be in the district office. I hope that helped.
So most likely the creativity has to come in administrative positions, most likely.
Yeah.
Whatever the trustees
Absolutely.
have to decide.
Next year, if that levy, excuse me, I keep calling it a levy, if the deconsolidation happens in May, next year there's going to be a lot of decisions, and that's exactly why we pushed it out to the next summer, because there are decisions that have to be made about staffing and what staffing is going to look like, and all of your contracts have to be renegotiated with your outside services like food services and curriculum and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of work to do, but those 5 trustees make the decisions of what that board is going, what that school is going to look like. And there's a lot of samples around. There are schools of these sizes in Idaho. We look at them and see what staffing they have.
Yeah. Got 20 minutes. Any other comments, questions? Or we can just hang.
Oh, look, a newcomer.
All right. Start over again.
Yeah.
Your wheels are turning, I see it.
There we go. There we go. That's what we need.
I did, yeah.
Martinez.
Two little rocks hitting together. So on a combination superintendent principal, I'm assuming that position would have to have a superintendent certification endorsement.
Well, we kind of addressed this during the superintendent hiring. You need to have a certain amount already in place, is that
Yes.
right? And then you would have like a three-year time
You would have a 3-year window to
to
get
complete
to complete it.
education.
B.
Yeah, what do you get? The question was,
I knew that one
if
better.
we were to hire a superintendent in Clearwater Valley, would they, is the assumption that they would need to have their superintendent and
They would just have to
credentials?
be enrolled, correct?
Right, what was the enrollment? They have like 3 years to complete it or something like that? What are the specifications for that, for a superintendent?
Anybody with a K-12 administration endorsement in Idaho can apply for an alternate authorization superintendent credential.
And then they have a certain amount of time to finish it, right?
And then you have 3 years to finish the endorsement.
3 years to finish it, okay.
Originally I was hired under an alternate authorization, finished my endorsement in 2 years.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay.
Now we just have 17 minutes or 18 minutes to kill or whatever.
Put like the countdown on.
A little countdown.
A little,
We posted from it's posted
We
from
started at
6 to 7, and I know in the paper it was, or whatever, it was 6:30. But anyway, from 6 to 7, so we have to stay open till 7 and then make a decision.
No, we make a decision, we close at 7.
Make a decision, close at 7. Sounds good to me. Okay. Well, as it stands right now, we have the map with Elk City.
Sorry, yeah, do we want to go back to the trustee zones?
Yes, please.
Let's talk about trustee zones. That's great.
I found it.
Yeah, very well.
There we go.
Go.
This is for the CD.
They're all this, like a similar, or just shades of blue, so that's kind of a bummer. But the smallest one's hovering this border. That's zone 2. The lighter shade is zone 3. This darker purpley is 4. Lighter blue, which is Elk City, Dixie is 5. And then the darker blue, which is like Powell, is 1.
And you can see on the left the number of people in each zone. So trustee zone 1, 526, zone 2, 503, et cetera, et cetera. And they're trying to get those numbers as evenly as possible. But you can see, even by making 1 and 5, they're huge zones. You know, it's just very difficult when the population centers mainly around Kuski.
So what's the Grangeville side look like?
That's cool, yeah.
So we got 1, this darker gray, that's yellow down here. 2, and it looks like it's the north end of town. 3 is this lighter color, or brown. 4 covers the new boundary, and then 5 is Whitebird.
So you're
Big one.
yeah. I used to have FEM, so that's
Can we look at the populations of those?
Yeah.
Over here. Oh, it
Right
kind of
here.
does on a bar. Okay, I see. 1,200, 1,000, 1,500. So it's
Yeah.
1,100 to 1,500 discrepancy.
Do you have,
well.
do you have like the overlay map of what our zones look like now to go over top of that?
So,
We should probably just get out of that. What happened?
I know on the website we can.
Yeah, no.
No, that's-
Yeah. This is what we look like now.
Yeah.
And then there's a very, very tiny one here.
Oh, yeah.
With Larry in it.
No,
That's
that's
in
B.
town.
B.
That's in town.
So yeah, I'm not going, I didn't realize that zone 5 went all the way to Montana until months ago.
You're representing there, Larry. Representing.
Zone 4 also does.
Yeah, yeah. Two, 4, and 5. They're serious zones there.
Wow, lots of ground.
And that's, I mean, it's hard to represent that vast of network too.
I'd say just a lot.
Represent a lot of trees.
There's a lot of trees, that's true.
And rocks.
Yeah.
Well, every once in a while you get a kid in Howell, and it costs you a lot of money. It would almost be cheaper to send a teacher if they're gonna live for so much.
Didn't sometimes they send them to Missoula?
Yeah, but we gotta pay for it.
Yes.
Oh, the zone has to pay for it?
In lieu of
In lieu of.
transportation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The first year I was here, we had 3 kids in Powell, 2 were siblings, so it was just 2 vehicles, but it cost the district $22,000.
Did it really? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a ways.
Yeah. As you can see, we're a very unique,
Yes.
unique district.
Because, Larry, you go all the way to Joseph, don't you?
Yeah.
Oregon to Montana.
Oregon to
Yeah.
Montana.
That's Oregon.
Yeah.
Not quite.
State to state.
Well, it's interesting on the new trustee map, the population, that's the red numbers, is that
Yep.
right? It's interesting, if you scroll down to zone 5, it's got 1,500, and zone 2 has 1,000. I wonder, I thought they were supposed to be about equal, that's not quite.
Yeah.
What is
They
justification
also,
is?
they follow, the county was choosing to follow precinct lines.
Yes.
Makes sense.
To
We have
make
that
it as
option.
simple as possible
We
for
have
the
that option.
voters. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Just an observation.
Yep. And so if we decide to submit this to the state and they say there's a few things that they want to change, they can send it back to us and we can make some changes and then resubmit. We have one more chance to resubmit it by January, so they can look over it in February and decide if that's okay. So we do have one other chance to make, fine tune it if we need to.
Okay.
No other questions?
Tapped
got-
them out. Got them all tapped out.
11 minutes.
Would the current board members be the ones making decisions for the 2 new?
No.
How would that work?
We will be completely wiped out.
Can you reiterate the question?
Oh, will the current board members be making the decisions? No, we'll be completely wiped out, and the State Board of Education will choose 5 board members from each school district. For a total of 10, and then they will at that time work together for an entire year. Is that right? A year?
That's, yeah, as far as we know, there'll be 2 boards working together. And then, yeah, hey, will you address that?
And actually just until January, because they don't for election again in November and then take their seats at the January board meeting.
Okay.
So people appointed in June, they'd be the trustees for the 2 districts and the old district, run for election in November, take their position on the board in January.
So we only need half as many rocks to throw at each other.
Yeah. So.
have a question
Yeah.
related to just the board,
The State Board of Education making that decision. Do we have to date what that decision-making process looks like, or any more information about that?
No, I don't know.
It's in December. So we're gonna submit this probably by next week, and so they have a couple weeks to kind of look over it, and then in December they will make that decision. That's all I know.
But they wouldn't take over until, right?
You're just talking about the
I just
decision
talked about
on,
the State Board of Ed, the decision.
Oh,
for
the
Decision.
decision,
Yes,
yes.
you can go ahead and put it to a vote or no.
yeah,
I
so
just
they'll make that
wondered if we
decision
knew more about that process.
December,
Or January, I would imagine.
December is their meeting.
Oh,
I
okay.
think we have until the 14th to get on the agenda of November, and then I believe the 21st to turn in all of our paperwork and videos and support. And then, yeah, it happens in December, and then they come back to us if they have further questions, or they say we can move it to the ballot.
Is this out of the,
Yeah, sorry,
Something?
this is part of the timeline in the plan.
Okay, I have a question. Do you think that the video that came from Elk City will hurt you as far as the Department of Ed goes because the community was not happy with the way that they were engaged?
who's to say? I don't know.
Will you reiterate it for Alyssa?
Okay.
Yeah.
The question was, do you think the,
Wait, you gotta tell her what her name is first, because,
okay, Rachel
well,
Young,
Tracy needs to know.
Tracy, yeah,
Rachel Young.
Rachel Young asked, do you think that the video, when we submit the video from Elk City, that will have a detrimental effect on whether the state
No.
says, yea or nay? Nope. She thinks no.
I really don't know. I think if it was submitted, they'll have the opportunity to listen to it, but there was also two other, well, actually now tonight, for meetings altogether, and so they're going to listen to that and weigh all of that, and they recognize that at the end, there's a vote. So the board doesn't make that decision whether they think it's a good idea or not. They're simply looking at it and saying, have you met all of your legislative requirements to have a deconsolidation? And then they let the patrons make that decision. The voters will make the decision in the power of the vote. I do too.
Gotcha.
As it should be.
Ultimately, it comes to the community. Actually, that's what I've been saying all along. We're not the decision makers. We're just facilitating this.
I'm Sue Phillips, and I totally disagree with you on that, because after you guys were in Oak City and that meeting, I was pretty well ready to throw in the towel, and I've been approached by, I can't tell you how many people, and Elk City does not want to give up the fight. We want a voice, and I will again and again, say it over and over again. I don't care which way the vote goes, we just want a voice. We had no voice. And we will be letting the Idaho State Board of Education know we did not have a voice.
Is this a meeting I missed?
Elk City.
Yeah.
So I was at the Elk City meeting, and we did hear you, and we do value your voice. And we do want what's best for the people in the community, or what looks to be the best financially. And so we did hear you, and we did take that into consideration, and you did have a voice, and we did value that.
My letter, there's a letter in the free press today, and I don't know if the end of the letter got in because it was fairly lengthy because of me.
It was there.
My letter was there, but not all of it. And the end of the letter was a comment that I had from someone that I think is vital and important right now. It's all about the money, i.e. levies. We need to think about the kids. And Elk City kids need to be thought of. And the people of Elk City, especially the parents, people at that meeting said the parents should decide. I just feel like we're not being listened to, and I'm not the only one.
Barrington, you have approximately 3.5 to 4 minutes left of your meeting, so you might want to do.
Oh, we can vote on it now, is what you're saying? All right, well, we have a plan at this point in time. This is not,
Yes.
again, I keep saying the thing.
Roll call.
Oh.
Claire, I need an actual roll call with them actually stating it, not raising their hand, so that I can get everybody.
A roll call on what our vote is?
Mm-hmm. Need a roll call vote.
Okay, well, we have a plan that's put together. Again, this is not voting for deconsolidation, this is just the plan. If we decide to deconsolidate, we believe this is the best plan moving forward. Whether it's best to stay together or separate, that's for us to decide later. But this is, if we believe this is the best plan going forward, this is what we're voting on. So I need a motion. I'll need a motion, right? Do I need a motion to?
I don't think so. I think it's a roll call.
A motion to, excuse me, I believe you want a motion to approve the deconsolidation plan as presented.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I would maybe,
Hang on a second.
I would maybe take it a step further to clarify that putting Elk City with Kuski,
Okay.
just because that way it is very clear. I'm trying to help you be as transparent as you can be.
Okay, and that is the point of contention in this.
Yes.
Do we have a motion? Actually, I'll have someone sit.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we move forward with this plan as it's been presented. That does include Elk City with Kuski for the Clearwater Valley.
Okay.
And that is John?
That is, yep. John Minot.
Okay.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
B. Edwards seconds.
Yep.
Like a roll call for
Sure. I'll start.
Vice Chair?
Aye.
Larry Dunn, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
John Minot, aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Lacey Myers, aye. Let's go to B. Edwards.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. B. Edwards, aye. And aye. Tyler Harrington. Motion passes.
Adjourned.
And we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.